Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining today. We're about ready to start our tech drop-in. We'll wait just a moment or two for other people to join. Okay, let's get going. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for Megaport's tech drop-ins. We have a special session today. We're going to talk about an exciting new integration we just launched with Palo Alto Networks, Prisma SD-WAN. Last year we launched another integration with Palo Alto Networks for their next generation firewall. And that's been very successful. We've had a lot of great customer experience with that one. And we're excited to add to that now by bringing in Prisma SD-WAN. I've got a couple of experts here with us who are going to talk in a little more detail about the why of the integration and then actually how it works. And we're going to do a demo as well to show you just how quick and easy it is to get this started using the Megaport portal. So I'd like to introduce our speakers today. Number one, we have Kevin Dresser, who is our senior architect, solution architect for Megaport Alliances. And we've also got Ketan Patel, who is the senior technical marketing engineer at Palo Prisma SD-WAN. So without any further ado, I'd like to kick it over to Kevin to get it started. Hey, Kevin, how you doing?
Hey, thanks, Bill. I'm doing well. So I'm gonna just start off just quick little overview of just Megaport and what we're all about. Don't want to spend too much time on this because there's a lot of things to cover here. But just for those who aren't familiar with Megaport, Megaport operates a global software-defined network. So our physical infrastructure is built out over hundreds of data centers across the globe. And we interconnect all those data centers with our own network infrastructure. And we have also built out connectivity to hundreds of service providers. So whether that's the AWS, Microsoft Azure, Oracle, Google Cloud, et cetera, we've got those private connections pre-built, as well as the fact that we're hosted in third-party co-location data centers. That is where the customers live. So we kind of sit in the middle, allowing customers to build private connections using Megaport's infrastructure. And those connections can be built on demand. They're scalable, they're private, they're inherently secure, and you as a customer are in complete control over the provisioning, the scale, and the management of those connections. So to kind of take it now to the technical level, just to think about what Megaport does again, I mentioned we build out our physical infrastructure, our points of presence in these third-party data centers. Part of that infrastructure is we have a virtual compute stack. So the benefit of that is if you take a platform like Prisma SD-WAN and their virtual Ion appliance, you can deploy that right on Megaport's compute infrastructure. And as the diagram sort of depicted here, that's where you can leverage Megaport's connectivity. So you think about that virtual Prisma SD-WAN appliance sitting in a Megaport location. Number one, you can provision an internet connection to that appliance, not only for the management, but also for the data plane so that your remote sites can build SD-WAN tunnels and land it on that Prisma appliance that's sitting in Megaport. And then over on the right side of the diagram, those connections, those red lines represent Megaport's backbone. So we can allow the customer to provision layer 2 connections into the cloud providers. So if it's going to Azure, that would be an express route. Into AWS, they call that a direct connect. You can also build connections to your own private data center, your private cloud infrastructure. And then even taking it a step further to kind of build on the Palo Alto platform, other solutions that they have, like their Prisma Access platform, where you can connect Prisma Access using internet connectivity like a service connection. Megaport can also facilitate the Prisma Access Colo Connect. Because we are a Google Partner Interconnect provider, that actually can help enhance the performance and overall security and design if you're building out the fabric using not only Palo's platform but also the hyperscalers infrastructure platforms. So moving on to a little bit more about what it looks like under the hood. So again, Megaport's compute stack, we're giving you as a customer the ability to allocate resources. So where that column that shows the MVE size, that's actually represented, the first example, a 2/8. That means you're going to allocate 2 virtual CPUs and 8 gigs of memory. And that platform size is provisioned during the deployment. But as you can see, we've got 4 main sizes of the compute and memory, and those align to on the Palo Prisma side. They're different virtual ion instances. So there's a lot of flexibility here in how you can come up with the right design and right capacity and scale and throughput. And when it comes to the actual process of deployment, I'll show you in a demo, but essentially you're going to, provision the Megaport compute resources, but also you're going to, use the Prisma platform and licensing model to align with the different compute sizes. So I'm gonna hand it over to Ketan now, so he can talk a little bit about the Palo Alto platform specific to Prisma and some of the value and technology components that are offered on the Palo side, and then we'll bring it back to doing an actual demo.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. So branch offices we are seeing a lot of fundamental shift changes. Like there are 3 big trends as you look into the future. Number one, like hybrid work. Most organizations are in a hybrid work model where employees have flexibility to balance being able to work from home and coming to the office. At the same time, we absolutely have seen a rapid rise in digitization, like in cloud adoption and SaaS adoption. And lastly, offices continues to get complex in the sense that not only do we need to secure people, but also we need to have a better security models so we can secure the things. So next. So to answer all this, to address all these issues, like we have a Prisma SD-WAN Zero Trust a branch with Prisma SASE, where a Prisma SD-WAN integrated with the Prisma SASE delivers a zero trust security model at the branch level, ensuring that no users, devices, or application is trusted by default, whether it's inside or outside the network. The integration with the SASE Prisma, the Prisma Access, with the Prisma SD-WAN leverages AI-driven insights to automate network management and security decisions, which reduces the manual task and improving both security and performance in the real time. And Prisma SASE and Prisma SD-WAN integration offers a unified management experience via a single pane of glass, streamlining operations for both networking and security teams. And this approach reduces complexity and improves visibility across the branch environments. And as more organizations adopt hybrid work models, Prisma SASE provides a secure direct access to cloud applications, enabling employees to work from anywhere while maintaining consistent security controls and optimal performance. Next. So let's talk about the better together story with the Prisma SD-WAN and Megaport integration. Like some of the key benefits include a simplified connectivity in the sense like Prisma SD-WAN integrated with the Megaport simplifies a network connectivity by providing direct, private, and scalable access to cloud services. data centers and other branch locations. Uh, Second is like optimized performance. So by leveraging Megaport's global software-defined network, Prisma SD-WAN ensures optimized network performance through low latency, secure and predictable connectivity to major cloud providers such as AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud. And ease of deployment. Megaport's network as service platform combined with Prisma SD-WAN accelerates deployment times, allowing IT teams to connect to cloud services and data centers in minutes rather than the weeks or months. And application aware routing. So Prisma SD-WAN ensures that mission critical applications have access to the best possible paths within the Megaport's SDN, guaranteeing a superior user experience and higher availability. Next. So one of the key features which we have recently introduced in our 6.4.1 release is a hybrid branch gateway. So in the sense like, so we have a branch device where the SD-WAN path selection intelligence works and the visibility works. So whereas we also have a data center device where it can act as a transit. But there are use cases where where both the users and services are at the same place. So how can we leverage the best of both world of branch and data center? And that's where we introduce a branch gateway. So a hybrid branch in a data center type that will provide both SD-WAN visibility and the path selection capabilities while enabling the location to be used as a transit in the path policy. And for a low to medium scale data centers, this type, like a site type, which is a hybrid branch gateway, can be used to enable L3 DCI with a native VPN tunneling for which helps with the path selections and the visibility. So over to you, Kevin, for the demo.
Great, thanks, Ketan. So I've got a topology diagram on here, and so we're going to start getting into some of the technical weeds here. If you take a look at what I'm portraying here, this is an example of how a customer could potentially build a multi-region topology, not just with the virtual SD-WAN appliances, but I'm also showing in the middle a physical infrastructure where most customers still have some physical presence, private cloud infrastructure, whether it's in a colo facility or in a on-prem data center. So Megaport gives the ability to build out the platform and the solution, not just with the virtual appliances, but also with the physical appliances. And as Ketan said, there's a lot of powerful tools within the Prisma SD-WAN platform, as well as some of the security with Prisma Access. But what Megaport's adding to that is a lot more control over that middle mile, right? That physical network that is allowing you to be controlled by the Megaport solution. So these red lines are representing the Megaport, what we call the virtual cross connect. So think about these as the transport layer, where you now through Megaport have control over the deployment, the scale, and the provisioning of these types of connections. So in this diagram, I'm showing in the East region, I'm going to show in this demo the deployment of a virtual IAM appliance in the Megaport platform, as well as provisioning a virtual cross connect. In this case, it's going to be a connection being provisioned to AWS. And I'm going to show all the different steps and some of the ways that you configure the actual VIAN appliance. So with that, let me just jump over to my demo platform. And basically, I'm showing here that I am in the Prisma Strata Cloud Manager. So if I go in and start this, I'm going to first go into the licensing component because we do need a license. So I'm going to go ahead and create the license key. And so this is one of the things that you'll need prior to deploying on the Megaport portal. So jumping into the Megaport portal, I'm literally just going to go and create my MVE. I'm going to choose a location. Here, I'm going to pick the New York City metro area. There's multiple data centers that you can choose from. So I'll select one of the data centers, and I'm then going to select the Prisma SD-WAN. I'm going to select the 7108V series. And you can see that we've already pre-populated some of the virtual network interfaces that are mapped to the controller, port 1 and port 2. And then I'm going to specify some basic parameters like the name. I'm also going to have the option to pick the compute size. With the Prisma deployment, though, we've already automatically mapped it to the appropriate number of virtual CPUs and memory. So here's where I'm going to drop in that VION key. I also need the secret key. So I'm going to grab that from the portal on the Prisma side and drop that into the Megaport portal. And now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and kick off the deployment. And I'm automatically going to be prompted to create a Megaport internet connection. And it's going to allow me to drill down to where I want my internet to actually be mapped to. And you can see I'm in the New York Metro. So I want my internet to be also mapped to that metro area. And again, this internet connection is really for the management, the controller. But I do need to set some parameters like the amount of bandwidth. I want this to be mapped to my controller interface, and I do need to leave this set as untagged. And I'm just going to choose next here, which is going to add the VXE, and you can see it over in the order plane. And I'm just going to kick off the deployment. And at this point, it's provisioning my internet connection. And once it's deployed in the Megaport portal, I can drill down and see some of the information about what's being provisioned. But I'm going to jump, when I jump back into the Strata Cloud Manager, I can go into the workflow section, and under devices, I will now see that device in there as a unclaimed device. So this is part of the workflow of adding that virtual appliance into the Strata Cloud Manager. So I'm going to go ahead and start the process and go ahead and claim the device, confirm that. And after, it only takes a few seconds for that to be added as a claimed device. But then I'm going to go into another section of the workflow called data centers. Now, these are the sort of the logical constructs of within the Strata Cloud Manager of building out your sort of data center regions. And even though it's a logical data center, there's still some specific settings we want to set. For example, I'm showing that I've set this to control mode. This is an important config parameter for the way I want to deploy. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add that device to this New York data center, sort of logical data center that I've created in the Strata Cloud Manager. Once that's done, I can actually go in and start configuring the device. So basic parameters like the device name, I can go ahead and give this a logical name. This can be different than what I've configured in the Megaport portal for a name. But this is sort of where the core configuration of the appliance is done in this section. So once I get the details from the Megaport portal, I can go in and start provisioning connections. So here I'm actually going to provision an Amazon Direct Connect. That's called either a hosted VIF or a hosted connection. I'm going to pick where I want to peer to AWS. So I've deployed in New York. I'm specifying the New York on-ramp. And again, I'm just going to give it a logical name in the portal. Here's where I'm going to set my bandwidth. Here, I want to map it to the specific virtual NIC. There's two VNICs here. There's port 1 and port 2 that represent the Prisma VION appliance. So I'm going to select port 1 because this is where I want to configure that sort of data plane to AWS. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to set it as untagged because I want to have a VLAN assigned. And then here, I'm going to drop in my Amazon account ID, and I'm going to specify things like my ASN for the VION appliance. BGP parameters, I can actually leave blank, and Megaport will auto assign that for me. And I'm just going to kick off this order and confirm and deploy. So what's happening now is Megaport behind the scenes is provisioning the layer 2 connection between my virtual ION appliance and the AWS on-ramp in the New York City Metro. You can see it's provisioned. The last step I have to do is on the Amazon console, I just need to accept that connection. and I'm going to map it to what's called a direct connect gateway that I've already pre-provisioned in my Amazon account. Once I've done that, then this connection will be basically live on both sides. It'll be fully accepted and configured on the Amazon side. And at this point, I now need to do some of the configuration of my virtual appliance. You can see I've got the settings here that Megaport automatically assigns, like my IP addressing and my VLAN information. So if I get into the interfaces section of my Prisma appliance, I can go ahead and click on edit. And here I want to actually set this up as a sub interface. So I can basically change it from with the default setting, which is basically set as an interface for the internet segment. Once I save that, I'm now able to actually configure sub interfaces off of port 1. So I'm going to create a sub interface, and I can actually set that as the use for it is going to be peer with a network. I'm also going to set it as a static IP address configuration. And then here's where I'm going to actually grab, I can get the info from the Megaport portal. That's the VLAN tag that I want to assign to my Prisma appliance here. So I'm just going to drop that in. Also going to drop in my IP address information. And this is the Prisma side. I'm also going to set the AWS side as my default gateway. So these are the basic parameters for that sub interface. Once that's configured, I should actually have layer 2 and layer 3 adjacency between that virtual appliance and the AWS network. So if I go over back to my device, I'm going to try to launch a command CLI session using the remote access tool. So I can basically get this CLI session going. I just need to log in with the right credentials here. And basically what I want to test is basic connectivity before I start configuring BGP. So just using some basic CLI commands, I can just do a basic ping test from my virtual Ion appliance. I'm going to specify my source interface, and I'm going to go ahead and ping the IP address on the AWS side, which is the .93. And you can see I'm getting a response. So now I know I've got layer 2, layer 3 adjacency between my appliance and the AWS side, which happens to be the direct connect gateway. So next step, I'm just going to configure BGP. So I'm going to configure the global settings here. I specified the 64512 as my AS number. I'm going to leave the MD5 secret blank here because this is the global parameters. The reason I'm going to leave this blank is because if I want to add more peers outside of just AWS, I can, for connections that require the MD5 secret, I can put that in. For the ones that don't, I can leave that blank. So I'm just going to give it a basic router ID and choose next here. And that should be good for just the global BGP settings. So next step is going to be where I'm going to actually create my peer configuration. So if I jump over into that section, I can just give this a logical name. This is my peering with the AWS Direct Connect for the US East region. Here, I'm going to drop in the IP address of the Amazon side. And then this is the BGP. Sorry about that. Getting back to the peer type, there's a few different types. This is all Prisma specific. There could be a whole nother webinar on just the configuration options, but for this particular demo, I'm just going to leave it as classic. And then if I go to the next step here, I just need to put in the remote AS number for my Amazon side. And if I choose next here, I should get prompted to see, this is where I don't want to inherit those global parameters. And this is where I can actually specify the MD5 secret for the BGP session. So AWS Direct Connect requires that BGP authentication encryption to establish BGP. Different cloud providers may not necessarily require that, but put that in there, choose next, save it. And at this point, I should have full BGP peering with my Amazon environment. And if I jump over to the Amazon console, it still shows that BGP is down. It does take a few minutes for the Amazon console to show that BGP is active. But I can go into the CLI again and check. You can see I've ran some commands already to check the status, and you could see that I am actually peering. I'm receiving and sending BGP messages. And if I check the routes, I'm actually learning routes from my AWS environment. These two networks here, I am now learning from Amazon. So what I've kind of quickly showed here is the deployment of the virtual ION on Megaport's platform, as well as the ability to build a connection into the Amazon cloud. And then basically learning the routes to establish that full BGP peering session. So jumping back to the Google Slides here, this is basically what I've built. Okay, I've deployed the VION with a connection into the AWS cloud. To kind of jump even into a little bit more detail, this is an example of a topology showing a lot more technical detail of what I showed just being deployed. It was a pre-recorded demo, but here I'm showing an example of I've got set up right now live, where I've got a VION deployed on the East Coast, and I've got another one deployed on the West Coast with a connection to GCP and a connection to AWS. So if I jump over to my live console here, you can see these are my VIONs that are deployed. This one's in Ashburn, Virginia. This is my Google Partner Interconnect. The one in Denver, I've got a connection into AWS. And if I go and take a look, I've got an actual instance here that's in AWS. I've got another one over in GCP. Let me just show you real quick. That is this appliance here. And just to give you an idea from an end-to-end workflow perspective, here I'm logged into my virtual machine in Amazon on the West Coast. And here I'm logged into my virtual machine over in Google on the East Coast. And if I ping to AWS from GCP over the internet, you can see I'm at about 95 milliseconds from East Coast to West. All right. If I go ahead and ping the private IP that's riding the private connections, you can see we're reducing latency by a significant amount, right? So this is live compute that I'm showing you here on my platform, and just to kind of tie it back together, what I'm showing you here. If I jump back to my diagram. Second here. This is literally what I did. I was on this virtual machine in Google, and I just did basic connectivity tests. First one went over the internet. The second went down to over my partner interconnect to my VION here in Ashburn, Virginia. I've got a connection, a private connection. Think of this as a global WAN segment between the two regions, and then coming across the direct connect into my AWS environment. So I just wanted to kind of add that piece in there into the demo to kind of give you, a much deeper look at, not only the technology, but how riding a private network not only enhances, obviously, the SD-WAN capabilities of the Prisma SD-WAN platform, but now you've got that, like I said, that control over the actual transport to basically optimize that SD-WAN platform, to the next level. So I know we're out of time here. I'm not sure if there's any questions that have come up, but if there are, I'd be happy to answer any questions that came up. I'm not sure if there are. I don't know if Bill or Ketan or anybody has seen any questions come up.
Hey, Kevin, there was one question that came up that I think you kind of answered. They were asking about being able to transit between SD-WAN nodes across our network, and I think you kind of answered it with this graphic in the description.
Okay.
The fact that you can.
Yeah, great. And I'm these, Ketan, feel free to jump in here, but we're showing the VIONs on the Megaport side. Think of those as a virtual data center where you could have a bunch of physical branch sites on the East Coast and others on the West Coast. So from a overall WAN topology, this is where you're kind of leveraging the Megaport backbone for that end-to-end connectivity.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Kevin, for the detailed demo. That was a really great explanation, and to show how quickly and easily it really is. I know folks that are experienced practitioners with Prisma SD-WAN can appreciate the fact that all the automation that happens on our side to make it simple to make these network connections would really simplify their lives. So it was nice to see that mixed in with what you can do in Strata Cloud Manager. Well, I think, yeah, we are up against time, so we'll end it here. If anybody has any questions, wants to reach out to us, please hit us on LinkedIn or go to megaport.com. We'll be happy to answer any questions and have a more detailed discussion with you. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.